Gopi Janabalabha Giri Varadhari Gopi Janabalabha Giri Varadhari Gopi Janabalabha Giri Varadhari Yasodanandana Brajadanaranjana Yasodanandana Brajadanaranjana Jamanachira Vanachari Jamanachira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaurvani Pacharni Nirvasesa Sunyavadi Paschati Desatarni. So, they've asked me to speak on the arrival of Srila Prabhupada in America in 1965. And really, it's a little bit difficult because it was only one small sliver of what Srila Prabhupada came and did. And his arrival in the United States, I can only state what realization that I have, that it was an extremely important and significant event. The first time that there had been other swamis and gurus and so forth come to America, but it's the first time that a Vaishnava, a true Vaishnava, had appeared. Srila Prabhupada did not come on the pretext of something he was going to get out of it. He didn't come because he was planning on making some money or collecting a lot of followers or what people, yogis and gurus, generally come here for. Come to America to get something from America. Srila Prabhupada came to give something, the actual treasure of India, the treasure that the British had no clue about. The British, during their time there, practically pillaged and raped India completely. They built the railroad system so they could take all the raw materials. So, but they didn't understand about the spiritual heritage of India. That's what they missed. So Srila Prabhupada didn't come as a beggar. He didn't come wanting something. He wanted to give something. And if you look at the circumstances that Prabhupada came, he wasn't invited. He wasn't encouraged. When he actually had some success, he was discouraged by his godbrothers and disparaged for what he had done. They offered no help at all whatsoever. And what Srila Prabhupada did, no ordinary man would even dream of. To come to a foreign country, like I'm 69. Srila Prabhupada was 69 when he came to America. I cannot imagine going to a foreign country. It's completely different from where I grew up, and a completely different, a totally demonic place. And he's going to come here and ask people to give up the very things that this whole society is resting on. 4 regular principles. No illicit sex. Oh my gosh. No gambling. Okay, no gambling. No intoxication. And all the people are, hippies. Everybody's taking some kind of intoxication. Okay. Meat eating. The home of McDonald's and Jack in the Box, where everyone eats meat and nobody thinks twice about it. So he was thinking that if I say something like this, that they'll tell me to go home. Why would anyone want to hear that? Srila Prabhupada was not unaware of the circumstances that he was facing. In India, obviously, he was educated in English, perfectly understood everything. But of course, when you actually go somewhere and you actually see the things that you've heard about, then it's a pretty shocking experience. It's pretty traumatic. Srila Prabhupada was his pure devotee. But we also have emotions. We also have our personal feelings. Srila Prabhupada was I would say, his compassion was on steroids. Srila Prabhupada was concerned about not only every human being, but every living being. He came here to spread Krishna consciousness to anyone who would listen. He would do anything he could to try to encourage anyone he met to be Krishna conscious. So when he came, there were things that he had to adjust in order for people to be attracted to Krishna consciousness. He presented Krishna consciousness not by a series of rules and regulations, but giving people a taste for chanting the holy name. And not only that, tasting prasadam. The philosophy he introduced gradually. Okay. So, coming to America and the preparation, there's a whole book, Lilamrita, Planting the Seed, New York City, 1965 to 1966. And I'd like to read it a little bit, because it explains exactly what Prabhupada faced when he's coming off the ship. Okay, so Prabhupada wrote a diary. He kept notes. This is from September 10th, 1965. I was 14 years old. Today the ship is plying very smoothly. I feel today better. But I'm feeling separation from Sri Vrindavan and my friends, my lords, Sri Govinda, Gopinath, Radha Damodar. My only solace is Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, in which I am tasting the nectarine of Lord Chaitanya's Leela. I have left Brajabhumi just to execute the order of Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, in pursuance of Lord Chaitanya's order. I have no qualification, but I have taken up the risk just to carry out the order of His divine grace. I depend fully on their mercy, so far away from Vrindavan. So Srila Prabhupada came on the order of his spiritual master. But the spiritual master's order was to preach in the West. He didn't exactly explain what he expected Prabhupada to do. Srila Prabhupada took the time and effort to not only write, to translate the Srimad Bhagavatam, but to collect the funds to print it, all by himself. In Prabhupada's former life, he was a businessman, and it was extremely successful. An astrologer once said that he would be the richest man in India. But by Krishna's arrangement, his business failed, and practically he was penniless. But he was not unfamiliar with how to deal with money, how to deal with getting things done. So he wrote the book, 3 volumes, translated, the first canto, and then collected the money, went to a printer, and had it typeset. Then he would check the proofs and have them printed. Now, I know about printing. I took to a print shop in high school. And in those days, they didn't have all this fancy typesetting equipment or anything like that. The way you print something is they have this drawers full of pieces of type, and you one letter at a time, you line them all up, and you have to get it the right side up. So a P becomes a B or a D. Okay, so you line up the type, and it's a very tedious, time-consuming process. So you've got a very big job to do to typeset it. And of course, there were some, if you look at the original books, or they have reprinted them, reproduction, and you can see there are many, mistakes or whatever. So Prabhupada's coming to America with practically no money. He's sponsored by a man in Butler, Pennsylvania, the son of a friend or an acquaintance. But he's not planning to stay in Butler, Pennsylvania and, hang out and go to Disneyland or something like that. He came here to preach. So what does he have for income? Selling his books. Okay? So Prabhupada's books weren't exactly like, Penguin, or some of these famous book publishing houses. Some very inexpensive paper, mistakes, and he's talking about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, who in New York or anywhere is going to be interested? It's not that, excuse me, sir, what have you got? Right? Open your coat, I've got Srimad Bhagavatam. No. So Srila Prabhupada is practically living on the street. When he first arrived in America, he went to this home of this his sponsor, but then later he moved to New York and he was living on the Bowery. And there were many nights that Srila Prabhupada went to bed hungry. He kept track of every penny. Of course, back then a penny was worth a penny. But there's a book which describes and has the actual Prabhupada's notes and the diary that he kept. How he was feeling, how much he spent, how much the income was, and so on. So on the way over, he sold a set of books to the captain of the ship. And so he had a little bit of Lakshmi, but that was it. So, I just want to read a little bit here. The Jaladuta is a regular cargo carrier of the Scindia Steam Navigation Company, but there is a passenger cabin aboard. During the voyage from Calcutta to New York in August and September of 1965, the cabin was occupied by Sri Boy Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami, whose age was listed at 69, and who was taken on board bearing, quote, a complimentary ticket with food, unquote. The Jaladuta, under the command of Captain Arun Pandya, whose wife was also aboard, left at 9 a.m. Friday, August 13th. In his diary, Srila Prabhupada noted, "The cabin is quite comfortable. Thanks to Lord Sri Krishna for enlightening Srimati Morarji for all these arrangements. I am quite comfortable." But on the 14th, he reported seasickness, dizziness, vomiting, Bay of Bengal, heavy rains, more sickness. On the 19th, when the ship arrived at Colombo, Ceylon, now Sri Lanka, Prabhupada was able to get relief from his seasickness. The captain took him ashore and traveled around Colombo by car. Then the ship went on to Cochin on the west coast of India. Janmashtami, the appearance day of Lord Krishna, fell on the 20th of August that year. Prabhupada took the opportunity to speak to the crew about the philosophy of Lord Krishna and to distribute prasadam he had cooked himself. August 21st was his 70th birthday, observed without ceremony, at sea. The same day the ship arrived at Cochin, Srila Prabhupada's trunks of Srimad Bhagavatam volumes, which had been shipped from Bombay, were loaded on board. So during the voyage on the way, Srila Prabhupada got extremely ill and actually had a heart attack. By the 23rd, the ship had put out to the Red Sea, where Srila Prabhupada encountered great difficulty. He noted in his diary, rain, seasickness, dizziness, headache, no appetite, vomiting. The symptoms persisted, but it was more than seasickness. The pains in his chest made him think he would die at any moment. In 2 days, he suffered 2 heart attacks. He tolerated the difficulty, meditating on the purpose of his mission, but after 2 days of such violent attacks, he thought if another were to come, he would certainly not survive. On the night of the second day, Prabhupada had a dream. Lord Krishna, in his many forms, was rowing a boat, and he told Prabhupada that he should not fear, but should come along. Prabhupada felt assured of Lord Krishna's protection, and the violent attacks did not recur. Thursday, September 9th. 4 o'clock this afternoon, we have crossed over the Atlantic Ocean for 24 hours. The whole day was clear and almost smooth. I am taking my food regularly, and have got some strength to struggle. There's also a slight tacking of the ship, and I am feeling a slight headache also, but I am struggling, and the nectarine of life is Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, the source of all my vitality. Friday, September 10th. Today the ship is plying very smoothly. I'd feel today better. But I'm feeling separation from Sri Vrindavan and my Lord Sri Govinda, Gopinath and Radha Damodar. My only solace is Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, which I am tasting the nectarine of Lord Chaitanya's Leela. I have left Bhumi just to execute the order of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati in pursuance of Lord Chaitanya's order. I have no qualification, but have taken up the risk just to carry out the orders of His Divine Grace. I depend fully on their mercy, so far away from Vrindavan. So somehow Srila Prabhupada, on the trip over, was able to enjoy a smooth sail. And the captain said, actually, that in all his many years of being a captain, he's never seen the Atlantic Ocean so smooth. So Krishna was making special arrangement for Srila Prabhupada. Then September 13th, Prabhupada noted in his diary, 32nd day of the journey, cooked bhati kachuri. It appeared to be delicious, so I was able to take some food. Today I have disclosed my mind to my companion, Lord Sri Krishna. There's a Bengali poem made by me in this connection. This poem was a prayer to Lord Krishna, and it is filled with Prabhupada's devotional confidence in the mission that he had undertaken on behalf of his spiritual master. An English translation of the opening stanza follows. I emphatically say to you, O brothers, you will obtain your good fortune from the Supreme Lord Krishna only when Srimati Radharani becomes pleased with you. Sri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is very dear to Lord Gauranga, the son of Mother Sachi, is unparalleled in his service to the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. He is that great saintly spiritual master who bestows intense devotion to Krishna at different places throughout the world. By his strong desire, the holy name of Lord Gauranga will spread throughout all the countries of the Western world. How did Srila Prabhupada know that? In all the cities, towns, and villages on the earth, from all the oceans, seas, rivers, and streams, everyone will chant the holy name of Krishna. As the vast mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu conquers all directions, a flood of transcendental ecstasy will certainly cover the land. When all the sinful, miserable living entities become happy, the Vaishnava desire is then fulfilled. Although my Guru Maharaj ordered me to accomplish this mission, I am not worthy or fit to do it. I am very fallen and insignificant. Therefore, O Lord, I am now begging for your mercy, so that I may become worthy, for you are the wisest and most experienced of all. The poem ends, today that remembrance of you came to me in a very nice way. Because I have a great longing, I called to you. I am your eternal servant, and therefore I desire your association so much. O Lord Krishna, except for you, there is no means of success. Srila Prabhupada had complete faith in his mission. Srila Prabhupada put himself as a conduit or as a representative of Krishna. He didn't come for any other reason. So he put himself in a position that whatever happened was up to Krishna. And it is my opinion that the early devotees who appeared to become his earliest disciples were all planted. In other words, Krishna put them there. The whole situation at the time where you have young people looking, searching for something, searching for some truth in life. Because at the time the Vietnam War is just winding up, not winding down, but winding up. And there's the civil rights movement going on, and many traumatic events going on, and people are looking for something. They're taking drugs, perhaps, or becoming hippies, or taking a second look at what the Western civilization is offering. Then we have certain personalities, such as Allen Ginsberg and Bob Dylan and other, the Beatles, of course, later on. The whole situation was set up for Srila Prabhupada to go to America. That's my opinion. And the early disciples were there to help. Now, when a devotee is serving Krishna, sometimes there are reverses. There are things that happen that don't seem to make any sense. Sometimes the devotee is put under great difficulty. And Srila Prabhupada spent the first year in New York completely unsuccessful. And sometimes he would go to the down to the docks and think about returning to India. But then he would keep going. He was not discouraged. In other words, he wasn't going to give up, but no one was coming. It was also extremely cold. Srila Prabhupada didn't come with, long underwear and mittens, and it was extremely cold. Coming from India, where it's hot all the time, and again, with very little money. And when he lived on the Bowery, he was living with somebody who had a bad trip on the LSD, and he came to attack Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada was translating and writing, and someone stole his typewriter and all of his belongings. So in many ways he was challenged by his circumstances. It was not easy. And it's when there is a difficulty and the devotee tolerates it and is determination is not interrupted, then that's an example of what a great soul that Srila Prabhupada is. He was not deterred. He didn't give up, become despondent, anything like that. So Srila Prabhupada endured all of these things, the difficulties. So, having endured the trip, he comes to Boston Harbor, and then in New York, he gets on a bus to go to Butler, Pennsylvania, where his sponsor lives. So Prabhupada was seeing all of this, the skyline and the harbor and everything, and this big So here's a prayer. When he was just arriving at his destination in America, he wrote this prayer. It said, "My dear Lord Krishna, you are so kind upon this useless soul, but I do not know why you brought me here. Now you can do whatever you like with me. But I guess you have some business here, otherwise why would you bring me to this terrible place? Most of the population here is covered by the material modes of ignorance and passion. Absorbed in material life, they think themselves very happy and satisfied, and therefore they have no taste for the transcendental message of Vasudeva or Krishna. I do not know how they will be able to understand it. But I know that your causeless mercy can make everything possible, because you are the most expert mystic. How will they understand the mellows of devotional service? Oh Lord, I am simply praying for your mercies, that I will be able to convince them about your message. All living entities have come under the control of the illusory energy by your will, and therefore, if you like, by your will they can also be released from the clutches of illusion. I wish that you may deliver them. Therefore, if you so desire their deliverance, then only will they be able to understand your message. How will I make them understand this message of Krishna consciousness? I am very unfortunate, unqualified, and the most fallen. Therefore, I am seeking your benediction so that I can convince them, for I am powerless to do so on my own. Somehow or other, O Lord, you have brought me here to speak about you. Now, my Lord, it is up to you to make me a success, or failure, as you like. O spiritual master of all the worlds, I can simply repeat your message. So if you like, you can make my power of speaking suitable for their understanding. Only by your causeless mercy will my words become pure. I am sure that when this transcendental message penetrates their hearts, they will certainly feel engladdened, and thus become liberated from all unhappy conditions of life. O Lord, I am just like a puppet in your hands. So if you have brought me here to dance, then make me dance. Make me dance, O Lord. Make me dance as you like. I have no devotion, nor do I have any knowledge, but I have strong faith in the holy name of Krishna. I have been designated as Bhaktivedanta, and now, if you like, you can fulfill the real purport of Bhaktivedanta. Signed, the most unfortunate, insignificant beggar, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. On board the ship Jaladuta, Commonwealth Pier, Boston, Massachusetts, USA, dated 18th September, 1965. So Srila Prabhupada is putting himself in a position for Krishna to make all the arrangements. He has full faith that Krishna is going to make it successful. He's not thinking, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I have this plan, that plan. But he's putting himself in the position where Krishna can use him. Okay. So, for someone to come up with a plan like this to make America Krishna conscious is very, very bold. And some may say, well, Prabhupada came to America, he was just in the right place at the right time. Anyone could have done it, but he did it, so he gets the credit. But you know. No. What Srila Prabhupada did at such an advanced age in 12 years was practically impossible, because he not only came knowing what he was going to do, he'd already translated some of the Srimad Bhagavatam. His plan was to complete the 18,000 verses of Srimad Bhagavatam in 60 books of 400 pages each. That's a lot of writing. That's a very big task. And also other books. He wrote the manuscript of Bhagavad Gita in India, and it was stolen. He was writing again Bhagavad Gita translation, and the manuscript was stolen again, as far as I understand it. So it wasn't easy. It was not easy at all. And so Srila Prabhupada started very humbly in New York, and he would tell people what he was going to do. So there, he said, he'd sit on a bench, bus bench, and talk to somebody with his Prabhupada hat and his pointy shoes and his Vaishnav dress, and he's telling somebody that just wait. There will be devotees, there will be books, there will be temples, there will be farms, there will be schools, all of these things. He was thoroughly convinced that this is what's going to happen. And he's telling some guy on the bench. How did he know what was going to happen? So Srila Prabhupada had a mission, and in fact in India, people were asking him, why are you doing this? You're printing all these books and going through so much trouble. He said, you're doing something that it's not likely for anything's going to happen. And he says, no. I have a mission, and you will see that I will be successful. You will see. So he had faith in the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. Full faith. He knew what was going to happen. But he wasn't going at it thinking that I'm the doer. Everyone in the material world is thinking, I'm doing something, right? I'm cooking. I'm doing this business. I'm making money. I'm so on and so on. And I'm sitting here thinking I'm giving a lecture. But actually, I am sitting in the heart of my body, and by my desire, thinking, feeling, and willing, my body's moving, my voice box is vibrating, and hopefully something intelligent is coming out. So, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes that Vayadrakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam hetananena kaunteya jagadvibharavartate. We're all thinking that I'm doing something, but actually everything is being carried out by material in nature. We're not actually doing anything. We're not actually doing anything. And Srila Prabhupada is just the same. Srila Prabhupada is asking us to assist him. But we're actually, no one is the doer. When you go out to preach to somebody, you don't know if they're going to accept it or not. You present a book to somebody, they may take it, they may not take it. We're not the cause of the results of our activities. That's up to Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada was working not from a false ego platform, but from a spiritual platform. Spiritual platform, understanding that I'm making an endeavor. I'm trying. I'm doing something. I'm speaking to somebody. I'm trying to arrange something. But in the end, it's all up to Krishna. Before Srila Prabhupada came to America, he tried to start the International Society of Devotees, League of Devotees, but somehow the effort was unsuccessful. the long history behind that. So coming to America, okay, he thought that this would be the best place to come to New York, the most important city in the Western world. So he came to New York after his godbrothers had been completely unsuccessful in London. He thought to come to New York. Okay. So he wasn't coming to become westernized. Some people had suggested that he should learn how to eat with a knife and a fork and a spoon, you know, just like Westerners, and wear a Western dress, you know, so he wouldn't, you know, be so strange. But Srila Prabhupada had no intention. He had no intention of becoming westernized. His intention was to take the Vedic culture of India and transplant that into the heart of America. If you could even imagine such a thing. Something that in the Western countries is completely unknown. We've heard things like karma, reincarnation, you know, these esoteric words, very mystical and so on. But Srila Prabhupada understood the whole Vedic culture. He understood exactly how to present it to the Western people. So not only has he translated the scripture, but he's explained it so that the layman can understand. This is not easy. If somebody says, well, Prabhupada didn't understand the Western civilization, you know, it came from Calcutta, what did he know about, you know, technology, you know, what did he know about, you know, moon landings or anything else, you know. Srila Prabhupada was not a conditioned soul. He was free from the four defects, which were imperfect senses, making mistakes, being an illusion, or cheating. Someone could say, well, Srila Prabhupada wore glasses. How our senses are perfect if he has to wear glasses? But Srila Prabhupada is seeing through Scripture. And not only seeing through Scripture, but personal experience. Personal experience. Prabhupada was experiencing Krishna consciousness. So it's not theoretical. And this is what Srila Prabhupada brought to the West. In his coming here, he showed and he preached from a platform where he was seeing Krishna everywhere and at all times. That means he wasn't relying on his gross material senses for knowledge. I'll give him one example. When I was a kid, I used to read the hot rod magazines, right? The hot rod magazine, how to take a motor apart and do different things to make the motor more powerful. I'd never even seen the inside of a motor. I'd never physically taken one apart. But because I read about it, I could see inside the motor. Okay, yeah, okay, they had some photographs or whatever, but if you understand something, then it's the difference between looking and seeing. People can look at a car, so, oh, you know, this is a great car, whatever. But the engineering and what's going into making that car is known to the engineer. He actually sees what's going on in the car. In a similar way, my mundane example, my disclaimer, Srila Prabhupada could see everything, the essence of everything. You know, how many, you know, windows are in the, you know, Empire State Building? That's not knowledge. But understanding behind the mentality behind building a skyscraper like that. Prabhupada understood. It's the mode of passion and ignorance. He understood the essence of everything. He could see everything in relation to Krishna. And so there wasn't anything that he didn't know. So, beyond imperfect senses, Srila Prabhupada isn't an illusion. Someone who's under the illusion is thinking that I am this body, and whatever is going on in my life is meant for me. That there's no supreme being. I am the enjoyer. As soon as we want to enjoy, we must be an illusion because we are servants of God. You can't be a servant if you're thinking I'm the enjoyer. We don't. If I said I want you to become my servant, well, how much are you going to pay me? Or am I a slave? I don't want to serve somebody. But we are made to serve. You can't get away from it. If we don't serve God, we serve our country, ourself, our family, or this one or that one. It's, some cause. You serve your dog or cat, whatever. We can't get away from serving. We are created like that. So when you come to the material world, the idea is, I don't want to serve Krishna. We don't want to serve God. We want to become the enjoyer. We want others to serve us. All right? So you get married thinking, oh, this person will serve me. Of course I'll do something for them, but it's like a business. You do this and I'll do that, and But real service is done without expectation of anything. That's real love. And that's what goes on in relationship with Krishna in the spiritual world. They're not doing something for Krishna because they want something out of it. They're doing something for Krishna because they love Krishna. That's real love. And we don't find that in the material world. So if you want to enjoy the material world, okay, then you have to be under the illusion that I'm the enjoyer and everything revolves around me. It's not possible to enjoy without being an illusion, forgetting our real nature. It's not possible. So Srila Prabhupada is coming to America where all these people are thinking, I'm the supreme enjoyer. And they built up this, what I call a Disneyland, Western countries, where, the happiest place on earth. But if you examine everything, you find out people aren't very happy. They're not happy. But you can't say that. Everyone said, what are you talking about? I'm happy. I've got all kinds of money and this and that and the other thing. But if you look at their life, they find it's miserable. And Prabhupada would give the example. It's like the hogs in the Vrindavan, or hogs anywhere, eating slop or stool or whatever. They're happy as a clam. That is great. Any female that walks by I can have sex with, it's like, hey, this is it. But if you look at their life, it's disgusting. So we're thinking that we're enjoying, but actually we're suffering. You go skiing, oh, it's so much fun to slide down the hill till you fall down and break your leg. It's so freezing cold, and you have to pay a bunch of money to the ski lift. Ask me how I know. We're thinking we're enjoying, but actually it's suffering. We're taking the suffering and thinking that we're enjoying. And then there's another example that the camel is eating thorny twigs. This is their favorite thing. If you go to Africa, you see these big, long-necked giraffes, right? Or camels. Giraffes do the same thing. They eat thorny twigs. And they like it because what they're tasting is their own blood. The twigs, the thorns cut their tongue. So as they're eating the thorns, they're tasting their own blood. Oh, it tastes so good. So these foolish animals are tasting their own blood and thinking, I'm enjoying. So this is the way of illusory energy. You can't be happy here. You take a fish out of the ocean, right? And he's flopping around, right? So you give him a nice bed, give him a massage, give him his favorite food, Hey fish, how's it going? He'll never be happy that way. It's not possible. The fish is meant to live in a certain atmosphere. So we're living in this material world thinking, I am the enjoyer. We can't enjoy because we're not created to do that. So in order for us to experience what we think is pleasure, the illusory energy of Krishna convinces us that we're happy. That's the only way you can enjoy. It's not possible to be happy otherwise. So we're imitating God. Kind of like a little girl, she sees the mother cooking, right? And so parents buy this toy stove and little dishes and so on, and so they imitate, right? So we're trying to imitate God. We're trying to imitate the Supreme Being. And it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Because we're meant to interact with God, with Krishna. But we have this independence, and Krishna gives us independence, and there has to be an alternative, because otherwise we'd be like robots. And that's no fun. So all Krishna is asking us to do is to love him. So how do you love somebody? Right? What do? You do something for them. If you're a girl, you might have some boyfriend. Maybe you'll make some donuts or some cookies or something, or maybe you sew them a shirt. I don't know. But you do something for somebody, you serve them, and gradually that relationship develops. And Prabhupada gives the example in India. The girls are married at a young age. They don't live together, but they're introduced, and the girl might bring him something to eat. They have some dealings together, and they gradually develop a bond. Okay, so that's how relationships develop. So in trying to love God, everyone says, "Oh, I love God." Anybody will say, "Oh, I love God." But then you look at their activities and you find out they're doing everything that God didn't want them to do. Right? It's the 10 Commandments, and they're breaking the 10 Commandments or the 4 regular principles or whatever. How can you say you love somebody when you do things that displease him? So, love is something, this word love, we use it a lot. But actually, real love has to be developed. There has to be a relationship there. Okay? I love my dog. But what kind of a relationship is there? There has to be reciprocation. There has to be some give and take. There has to be some dealings. So in our Krishna consciousness movement, we are learning how to develop a relationship again with Krishna. We have to come to the conclusion that we made a mistake. That we came here to this material world to enjoy, and now we have to rethink, we have to reevaluate that decision. Am I happy here? Well, if you examine it according to Srila Prabhupada's instructions, well, there's a little bit of happiness, but a lot of misery. There's something there. You go out in the desert, and you drink a few drops of water. Okay, a few drops of water isn't going to satisfy thirst, but it's something, right? So we take this, breaking these 4 regulative principles, intoxication. Oh yeah, I'll drink something, or I'll smoke something, or take some drug. But then when it's over, you got to do it again. And the things that we do and get pleasure at one time, we think, well, I'll do it again and I get the same pleasure. But it doesn't necessarily happen. It's always off the end of your fingertips. The happiness that we desire is just like squeezing a banana, right? It comes squirting between your fingers. So trying to find happiness in the material world, you go from one thing to the next. This is what Prahlad Maharaj was explaining. That you make a plan, you try to execute your plan. If you don't become successful, then you make further plans. If you are successful, then you're not satisfied. So you make more plans. And this way, one thing after another, looking for one pleasure after another, the real satisfaction doesn't come. And then there's death, right? Old age, disease, and death. And life after life, like this, going from one body to another, traveling all over the universe trying to find happiness. And so, when we get this information from Srila Prabhupada coming to America at great bodily risk, at an advanced age, to give us something, to give us answers to questions we never even thought to ask. Who in the Western countries is thinking that, is there something wrong with this civilization? No, we're all thinking that we need more technology. We need more material advancement. The scientists will save us. We're not thinking that we should surrender our lives to Krishna. We're thinking, I'm the supreme enjoyer. Why should I, perform austerities? Why should I, do anything other than trying to enjoy my life? What's the use of it? You foolish people in the Hare Krishna movement, you must be taking drugs, or you must be demented in some way, or fooled by this guy. You're just being sycophants for this, this guru, right? Nobody's thinking that I want to surrender my life to God. Okay, there may be some religious orders. I don't discount that some very sincere people in other religions have the same kind of idea. And in fact, the Mormons are the closest ones to our philosophy. But Srila Prabhupada is giving us something that is so valuable, and yet we don't see it. Prabhupada comes here, some strange old man, barely making it. But once people understand what it is Srila Prabhupada's giving, then people will start to appreciate what Krishna consciousness is all about. Okay, Srila Prabhupada is extraordinary. It's like for a Christian, for example, who wouldn't want to? What Christian wouldn't give anything or everything to spend a moment with Jesus? Right? Would you not want to be there for the Sermon on the Mount? Or some other place where Jesus is speaking? So, what fortune we have, that we have our own Jesus in Srila Prabhupada. Of course, not the same personality, but to have the opportunity to be with a pure devotee, hear from him directly. We have videotapes, we have conversations with Srila Prabhupada, with disciples and guests and famous people, to know exactly how he handled different situations, how he preached to people. I was fortunate to be with him when we went to the home of the Birlas. In America, that would be equivalent to going to the home of the Rockefellers. Okay? I was sitting with the family, perfect guest. Srila Prabhupada could speak on any subject in the world. Perfect guest. Making small talk, what are you doing, how's your children, and so on. And then if somebody said, well, Swamiji, I heard that, and somebody would bring up some philosophical question, and Prabhupada would instantly become guru. and he would preach very strongly. Okay, so I saw how Srila Prabhupada was able to make the Krishna conscious message perfectly to anyone. He could find out what you were all about and then make some Krishna conscious suggestion. How to fan your devotion, how to fan your Krishna consciousness. So he was the most personable person. That when he went to Butler, Pennsylvania, they had a little child, and he was just learning how to walk. So Prabhupada was enjoying, seeing this child just laughing and laughing about it. He was in every circumstance completely personal. He was not standoffish, like if some, simply dry. Srila Prabhupada was concerned about every disciple and wanted to make sure everybody had whatever they needed. If someone was coughing, he would immediately stop and ask, do you have sufficient warm clothing? He was concerned about everyone on every level. Not that, your spirit soul tolerate it, But Prabhupada was very concerned on every level. He was very, very, very personal. So I think it's about time to wrap it up. But to say the least, Srila Prabhupada's coming to America was a very, very significant event. And his position and his feeling of very humbled at being charged with doing something which was very, very difficult. And he was praying to Krishna to empower him to spread the message. And then as the years went by, we saw that Srila Prabhupada was able to create a worldwide movement, and everything that he predicted happened. Every single thing. He had over 100 centers, schools, farm communities, libraries, devotees, books, everything. So it almost reads like a fairy tale or a mythology. It's hard to even, if you examine Srila Prabhupada's life, it's just amazing. He could not be other than a pure devotee. So, thank you very much, Prabhu. Thank you for staying and listening to me. Hare Krishna. Any questions? Any comments? Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.